Nolan, it's Alex here. Do you want me to share this? I have the slide made if you want, and it'll be a little smoother transition than sharing the rest of the materials, but it's your call.
Yeah, that sounds good. We can do that.
And just a quick note, Commissioners McNair and Fergus might be a little bit late. I know we are still waiting on a quorum, but I'm hoping that either we get a quorum or they're not too late. Good evening, Ben.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Hi, Jason.
How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing okay. Just trying to get my lighting adjusted here.
As you're looking on that, just a note, we do have a quorum, but Commissioners Fergus and McNair might be a little bit late.
Agenda up here.
Good evening, Brooke.
Right.
Hey, Kim, just let me know when you want me to get started.
Jason, are you ready? We'll read through the slides on the screen first, but just are you ready to begin the meeting?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, take it away, Nolan.
All right, sounds good. I am Nolan Harshaw. I'm going to be the host of this meeting. Welcome to the Italian Village Commission meeting. Today is January 12th, 2021. Our meeting is starting at 4 o'clock. All attendees are muted upon entry. You will be unmuted as appropriate. The chair will call on participants to speak. If you do have questions, feel free to send those in the WebEx chat to the host, which is me, and you can chat with me at the bottom right of your screen if you have any issues. You will be required to have your video feature on if you are speaking. This meeting is already being recorded and live streamed through YouTube. Comments received via WebEx chat will not be part of the official public record. So at this time, please turn off your video, and if you are speaking on a case, feel free to mute yourself as well. Speaker slips are required to be submitted no later than 2 hours prior to a virtual meeting. Staff has confirmed speaker slips were received with all speakers prior to the meeting. If you have not already received confirmation on your speaker slip, you will not be called on to speak during the meeting. Go ahead, Alex. And last but not least, order of speaking, city staff will present application materials. The applicant will be sworn in and asked to present any additional materials. Registered speakers will be sworn in and provided 3 minutes to speak each. And last but not least, commissioners will discuss the case and ask questions if needed. Just a quick note, I may have to mute you during the meeting at some point, just in case I hear any feedback or anything. Take no offense to it, but also realize that you have to unmute yourself. In WebEx, I'm no longer to do that. So just be aware that you might be muted if you're trying to speak. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Nolan. We'll call the meeting of the Italian Village Commission to order for Tuesday, January 12th, 2021, 4 p.m. It is held virtually via WebEx and can be accessed through the city website. Our next commission monthly business meeting will be noon, Tuesday, January 26th, 2021, also to be virtual via WebEx. And the next regular commission hearing will be Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 at 4 p.m. Again, virtual via WebEx. With that, I will swear in the staff. Kimberly, will you state your name for the record, please?
Kimberly Bernard Sheehy.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this afternoon and evening to the best of your ability?
I do.
Great. Any other staff that will be speaking today that you know of?
No, not today.
Okay, sounds great. Let's introduce the commissioners present. I will call your name. If you could state your name for the record, that would be great. I'll start at the top of my screen with Todd.
Todd Boyer.
Great. David.
David Cook.
Ben.
Ben Goodman.
Brooke.
Brooke Michael Smith.
I'm trying to see who else is here. I'm Jason Sudi. Are there any other commissioners on the line I'm not seeing? Okay, so we've got 5 of us, and as you stated, there will be a few that may be joining in a little while. With that, let's go to the approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion for approval of the December 8th, 2020 minutes?
So moved.
Second, Goodman.
Great. I will call the roll. David?
Good.
Ben?
Ben Goodman, yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yeah.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. I believe we now have a public forum, so I'll turn it back over to you, staff.
Right. We have Kevin Wheeler, who will be speaking on the comprehensive zoning code update. And I've been promised that it's only going to be 5 minutes. Kevin, do I need to time you?
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, probably. I will try to be very brief on this. I appreciate the chance to do this. I know many of you, and for those who I've not met, hello. Kevin Wheeler, again, is my name. I've been with the city for a long time and currently hold the role of Assistant Director in the Development Department focused on growth policy. So these slides are just kind of an organizing element, and Kim, I'll make these available to you. You can share them with the commission afterwards. The city has embarked on an update of its zoning code, and I don't need to tell most of you what a zoning code is. You're familiar with what it does and the fact that it is distinct from policy, and it does regulate the way land is used in the form of buildings, et cetera. One of the things that you may not know is that the city has not updated its zoning code in a comprehensive way since the 1950s. So while we've had many, many updates to different elements of the code, different sections, probably none of it remains from 1950s. It hasn't really had the benefit of a comprehensive review. And one of the things that we really want to do as we look to the future is make sure that the code is aligned in a way that helps us to be the city we want to be. Among the things that we've been considering as we look at growth policy is the fact that on the left, territorial expansion of the city is really not happening at the pace that it did in prior decades. This is square miles added to the city by decade. And you can see in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it's pretty dramatic. In fact, we've grown from 40 square miles to 220 since 1950. But those days are largely over. We're going to continue to see infill annexation and fringe annexation on the edge of the city, but nothing of the scale of the past. Meanwhile, our population continues to increase, and this is actually projected out over the next 30 years, bringing in an estimated 300,000 residents to the city itself. And, you know, the thing about estimates is, you know, you're wrong. You just don't know how wrong you are. Having said that, you know, we have every reason to believe that our growth pattern is going to continue in terms of population. So we see things evolving. We see more infill development and redevelopment. This is a commission I don't really need to convince of that. You guys are really among the most active development areas in the city, certainly on a square mile basis, or per square mile basis. As I said, less territorial expansion, rising cost of housing, the lack of transportation options that we'd like to see in the future, increased demand for multifamily and smaller homes, the desire for walkable neighborhoods, all the things that Italian Village is pretty sort of comfortable with, aware of, the stuff that you guys kind of take for granted. Not all neighborhoods have done so well. Okay. How will we grow? We're asking some key questions. Where are people going to live and work? How are they going to get around? What will our neighborhoods look like? And how do we build opportunity for our residents? And there's work underway around transit, Link Us, which is an effort by the city, CODA, and others that you'll hear more about, regional housing strategy. The city's looking at environmental sustainability, and now zoning. I'm going to skip this slide for now because I feel like I'm running out of time, just to say that as we look to update our zoning code, there are a number of things that we're going to be considering. I guess I'm not skipping the slide. Looking at the priorities around affordable housing, promoting equity, job centers, enhanced transit, things like that. These are all the kinds of things that we'll be looking at. Phase one of the zoning code is what we're at now. It's kind of a technical phase. We're looking at the existing code, assessing it from a technical perspective, what works and what doesn't. We're looking at the process associated with the code. And we're also looking at the degree to which the code aligns with the city's growth policies and emerging priorities around things like housing and transit, et cetera. That process will culminate in a recommended update strategy. This is to happen by summer 2021, and that update strategy will essentially set the agenda for phase two when we actually start to do the work of updating the code. And that's the rewriting of the code itself, or the elements that we've decided need to be redone, as well as looking at potential map changes, especially those associated with new districts. A focused part of this, and this is going to be a multi-year effort, is going to be community engagement. And we're committed to making sure that we're doing that at every stage, particularly second stage, where there's going to be a broader scale of work being done. But you all will be getting a survey from us in the next week or two. We're going to ask that you take the time just to go through that survey. Hopefully you won't find it too burdensome, and share with us some of your thoughts about the zoning code currently, as well as priorities for the future. We're appreciative of your involvement with that. If you have any questions, we want you to be able to reach out to us and ask us. My name again is Kevin Wheeler. I'll give this presentation to Kim, and she can share it with you in the future. If you have any questions, I'll answer them now, but mostly we just want you to give you a heads up and know that this is coming. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Really excited for this process. We talk about the problems with the code at this commission a lot, and we're looking forward to having hopefully a lot of those, if not completely ameliorated, at least largely moving in the right direction. So thanks for taking this on.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening. Evening, everybody.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. So we are up to staff approvals. So I'll take a look. Staff, what page does that start on?
They start on page 5.
Page 5. Got it. Okay. So can I have a motion for staff approvals, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Great. I will call the roll, and then I'll go through for abstentions. David?
In favor?
Todd?
Aye.
Ben?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
And then I think Shannon jumped on. Shannon?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So the motion carries pending abstention. I'll go through the list now. It looks like we probably have an abstention on the very first one, 1016 Summit Street.
Yes, I abstain.
So Shannon abstains from that one. 248 East 4th. Is that another abstention, somebody? Nope. Okay. And then 301.
Nolan, we're getting a lot of noise on something.
I'm looking for it as well. Thank you.
Sounds like somebody was dragging a body across the floor. Usually doesn't happen until after the meeting. Okay, so 165 Punta, 1050 North 4th. I will abstain from 1050 North 4th. Anyone else? All right, 711 Civitas. 698 North High. That's all. Anyone have any abstentions we didn't catch? Speak up now. All right, sounds good. So let's dive in. Back to the top of the agenda. It is time for staff recommended applications. That one moved staff approval. Continued move to staff approval. So I guess we're to new. Are we on to number 3, Kim?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to go off running with it unless you wanted to.
No, go for it.
All right, so this is 1060 Summit Street. The proposed work includes removing 2 rear non-historic additions, one of which was a slab-on-grade patio turned into an enclosed porch. Proposed story-and-a-half addition on rear would wrap around the house to the rear and south elevations. Addition material would include smooth hardy board and wood trim to match existing. Replace columns on the west elevation with square columns. New windows would be the Geldwin sightlines from the approved list. New lights would be added per the submitted cut sheets, and new downspouts would tie into the underground drainage system. We did previously review this back in February of 2020, so I've got the comments from the conceptual review included. The commissioners at the business meeting have requested clarification on the columns if they were Doric or square. The applicant has confirmed that they're square with the, good God, I have a typo, the 1X trim top and bottom size dimensions, which I'll let Julie clarify my mistake there because I don't unfortunately remember what I typed a while ago. You know how that goes. Cut sheets have also been requested for the columns and lights, and a detailed 1/2 inch to 1 foot drawings of the front porch have been requested, specifically how far the columns are from the edge of the porch as well, which I did receive the cut sheets, which I believe were included. Again, I'll let Julie clarify what out of that she is using and those details. And I have to apologize for this. Somebody's not getting enough attention. Staff does recommend approval with the condition that the materials do not match the original siding and porch. The original siding and porch details are submitted regarding the porch post and how they're placed at the front of the porch. The basis for the recommendation are the standards for new constructions, A and H.
Great, Julie?
Okay, so I think we've looked at this a couple, but if you remember, you want to swear me in?
Yep, sorry, I had you frozen for a second.
No.
There we go. Julie, will you state your name for the record?
Julie Bullock.
And do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this afternoon to the best of your ability?
I do.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. So what we discovered, this house had been remodeled quite a few times, and actually the wraparound, I'll call it porch that you can see on the south elevation, was actually not on a foundation. And within the inside of the addition was a basement stair, an outside basement stair that at some point had been enclosed. So we had some discussion. I don't really think there were any real objections to what we were doing. I can go into more detail if you like, but basically you had asked us, there was some trim applied to the windows that you had said, we could remove. It was not original. It's kind of that little dark lines over the windows. You had actually suggested replacing the columns on the front porch with something more appropriate for the style of the house. And I think other than the board and batten connector, I think that was another suggestion. But changed a bit. We just were kind of deciding if they wanted to move forward with the project. So that was the reason for the delay, not really any changes. The columns are just square. It's not really a cut sheet because they're field-built columns, and they have a 5.5-inch tall base and a 3.5-inch tall trim piece at the top. I was just going to basically locate them where the existing columns are, but I will submit that information to staff as well. There is an existing wood fence on the property, which I've dashed in, just so you can see. It's really set back quite a bit from the front elevation. It's just really a kind of a unique house, I think, for Italian Village in terms of the way it's constructed. They kind of have like a double lot, and it sits angled on the property, so it's a little bit unique from that sense.
Okay. Let's go around the commission and see what we have out there. Brooke, do you want to start this one?
Sure, I can. I think, as I remember from our business meeting, the columns, the details and type of columns was the most pressing question. And I think Julie's illustrated what the columns are going to be, so I'm okay with this project.
Okay, sounds good. Ben?
I am mostly in line, except that for such a light porch, I strongly, I'd like to see if Julie, you'd be open to making that a 6.25-inch column, where it's a 1x6 plus 3/4-inch exposed, as opposed to 7.25. It just needs to be down because the previous post was pretty narrow, and it's not in character to have such a fat post. So that will be part of my if we can get that done, then I'm supporting the project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
You broke up, Jason, so what's next?
Oh, now I hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to get Todd. There you go.
Okay. I don't actually have any additional comments beyond Brooke and Ben's. I agree with them both.
Sounds good. Shannon? Shannon?
I have no comment. Sorry, I was double muted.
No problem. David?
This week taking a look at this, the only question I have, and I'd really like the dialogue between Todd and Ben, the three doors on the exterior, both on the west, south, and I'm not sure right now what the other elevation, but all the man doors are very different. We've got a full glass panel, it looks like, on the front door. Then to the side, there's a very, very narrow door that has a transom over the top of it. I get it. It lines up with the window, but it isn't repeated. And then the double door in the back, which seems like it should have a transom if it's going to match the other one, doesn't. They're three entirely different doors. And so, Julie, I'd like to ask your thought on that. Well, let commission first, other commissioners. It just seems very strange that you've got three different doors on this house. Actually, there are four if you count the garage and the shed thing, which to me aren't included in the discussion I'm having right now. It's the three very different glass doors, transoms, etc. It just doesn't seem to be consistent or, and in many cases, appropriate.
Okay, Julie, want to answer those couple questions?
Well, the front door, I think what you're seeing is the existing, it's the existing storm door. We're really not modifying the front door. We originally presented the door on the narrow door on the existing house without the transom, and I actually thought it was your suggestion to add the transom, so we did. But the existing opening, we can certainly make it wider or transom that there for us. It's really, but I do think that you have the original historic house And then you have the addition to the back. And I do feel you can treat the addition differently than the original house in terms of the doors, my opinion, for what it's worth. So, you know, the side proposed south elevation versus the proposed east elevation. Doesn't bother me architecturally, to be honest, but we're also, you know, it's not something we're going to, you know, object to if you feel like it's important to change. I guess is what I would say.
So I'll go back, Todd, Ben, you have any thoughts?
It kind of seems like transom would have been an original feature. And so if you're advocating for transom on the front door, I certainly see the merit of that. If you're looking for continuity, I could see deleting the transom on the side.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Ben. I think I'd prefer to have the transom over the front door, but I guess that's kind of for appropriateness. But depending, Julie, on what you think, based on the fact you don't want to modify the front door, I'd be okay with losing the transom on the south elevation as well.
Could we make it a condition that either transom on the front door and on the side, or we delete the transom on the side? Could we do it that way? I would like to talk to my owner. I don't know if they're on here or not. They were going to be, but.
I'd like to know if that front door is open, original to the house, that we probably want to keep it set up as it is.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up
Sure.
other pictures here and see if I can tell. I just honestly don't remember. It's been too long.
And I'd be okay with that. If that front door is original, I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we could bounce that to staff and just, you know, if there's historic evidence for transom and the owner is up for it, we certainly would support that.
Looks like with the elevations, the facade.
It's a pretty old door. From the pictures, the front door, you know, what you're seeing on here is just the screen door, but there's a wood door behind it. Whether it's original to the house, somebody installed, I don't know. If I could work with staff on that, I'll get her a good picture of it and we can kind of decide what is appropriate.
Okay. Any other issues that motion?
Well, let's just see if Julie is agreeable to a thinner post.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good comment. Very appropriate.
Okay. With that, Ben, are you make a motion?
I will. I move on application. Where are we? 21-01-007, 1060 Summit Street, to approve with the following modifications and stipulations that the applicant will change the dimension of the post from 7.5 to 6.5 maximum, with the option to go down to even 5.5. And that in conjunction with staff, determine whether a transom on the front door is appropriate, in which case we support it. And if not, then it's also supported. We support staff's uncovering and outcome of this.
Okay, sounds good. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll call the roll. Ben?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, yes.
Todd? Jan?
Yes.
I will say yes as well. Motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Next, I have to abstain on number 4 and number 5, so I will turn it over to.
All right, application number 450 North Front Street.
Nolan, any chance on the static?
Still trying to locate it. I actually think it's coming from Vice Chair's microphone. I apologize.
Oh, is it? Sorry. Let me try something else.
I'll be there to help.
Here, while you're figuring that out, Todd, I'll run over the staff report so we're not losing too much time, so we can roll through these first couple ones, hopefully. This is for, the proposed work is for the use of the Quaker V200 windows for the project at this location. Commissioners requested that there would be an alternative window from the approved window list to the submitted Quaker windows. Locations of the previous installations were also requested, which I did receive clarifications that these windows have been used at 719 Civitas and for future Jeffrey projects. In the past, Jeffrey Park was also using the comparable Lindsay vinyl windows. And Station 324 also uses the same Lindsay product according to our applicant. The Quaker aluminum product was used at the Wonder Bread building. Any sashes with the muntins are to be the simulated divided light sash with the muntins permanently applied to the interior exterior of the glass with a spacer bar between the two layers of glass. And we did receive pictures of the windows as well as the locations of where they are installed too. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the windows be chosen from the approved list. Basis for the recommendation are the Italian Village guidelines, specifically windows, and the approved windows list. I believe we have David Blair here for
I am on.
this.
I lost you for a moment. Sorry. So I logged back on.
Alrighty, I'll hand it back to you, Todd.
All right. Nolan, is this any better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Got rid of the headphones. David, there you are. Do you mind raising your right hand and stating your name for the record for us?
David Blair.
All right. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony this evening?
I do.
All right. Thank you. If you have anything to add to Kimberly's kind of summary, feel free.
This is with regard to Windows, correct? I'm sorry, I locked out briefly. Yeah. Okay. No, we're just the client obviously is looking to utilize this vinyl window. They've kind of fairly recently been made more aware of it, seen it utilized in the I think some of the Jeffrey Place buildings, and is interested in using it on this project. It's in the area being utilized. We think the style is appropriate. We can do what we need to do with the mutton bars in it. So we're asking for approval of use of this window on the 1050 project.
All right. Let's go around and get some feedback from the commission. Brooke, do you mind starting us off? Any thoughts?
Who, me?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm a little confused. There were some examples and addresses given by staff last week. I did go out and look at some of these. This is the one that's installed at 324 East 2nd. That, I believe, is, if I understood correctly, a fiberglass variation. There it is from a distance. Of course, this is not the ideal way to show a photograph, but in far contrast, here's Wonder Bread, where this is a more of a detail. And those are the aluminum. And I think there's no doubt when you're on site that the aluminum does succeed a little more, both in terms of the profiles and the way the glazing sets back into the frame itself. And there are worse examples of this. I discovered another one sort of along the way, but I won't bring it up right now, that doesn't even have any exposed mullions on the outside of the glass, even though it's trying to emulate a casement steel window. So in general, I think I'm not as particular about materials per se right now as much as the profiles, and of course durability should be a concern for us. There's no doubt that the aluminum is succeeding. We have concerns about vinyl, but I have to tell you that the profile of the examples given seem to be fine. So if somebody else were okay with the material, or other commissioners are okay with the materials, then I say that the profiles are pretty good. And of course, assuming that we're going to get those outside and pass through kind of mutton bars through the glazing.
All right, thank you. Brooke, any comments?
I have not seen the windows that Ben is referring to, so I think I would defer to his comments and not argue that. I guess I do question the vinyl, though. You know, just seems out of place, maybe. That's all.
All right, thank you. Lauren, any thoughts?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, David.
I'm going to defer to you, Todd. I know you specify and know certainly more on the window side. I'm concerned about the vinyl, but would defer to you and Ben.
All right, sounds good. Shannon, any thoughts?
I believe I feel the same as Commissioner Cook. I'm looking at these pictures and they don't look very durable. I really don't know why you would even use them instead of the aluminum, but if you think that they are okay and the applicant wants to put them in.
Gotcha. My thoughts reviewing the application and some of the windows that have been submitted and installed throughout the neighborhood. I agree with Ben's analysis that I think the profiles are fine. I have two concerns. One, the vinyl. I'd be much more in favor if these were fiberglass. As kind of a medium, kind of a middle ground. Fiberglass is more durable. They're certainly not the aluminum windows, but fiberglass I would have no hesitation on. The one concern I do have that I noticed on some of these examples is, and maybe David, you could kind of explain this piece, but typically we've not approved internal mutton bars or between the glazing mutton bars. It's always been surface applied mutton bars. And like this example that's shown is not something that we would have, and I've not even noticed it until now, but I just remember from a long time ago when Rick used to just go crazy when this would be submitted, that it should always be externally applied mutton bars. So that's one that I'm certainly going to stick on, is that I'm not going to be in favor of internal mutton bars, but I would like to know your thoughts about whether or not you guys have looked at fiberglass options in the Quaker, or even if they offer fiberglass or not.
Do you want me to respond?
Sure.
Okay. I'll have to apologize a little. I didn't work on or do the drawings or any of the buildings that were utilized as examples. They really came as examples from obviously from the client and then from the window the manufacturer or the provider, Northern Windows, right? So they were showing what's been approved there. I can't offer why it would have been approved or installed without an exterior mutton bars. I agree. We're not planning on doing that. We would have exterior mutton bars and the intermediate spacers as a minimum. We're not trying to not do that on this submittal. I am not aware of. I've used fiberglass window before. I have not necessarily used a Quaker fiberglass, and I cannot let you know whether there is a what would be an appropriate a fiberglass that gives us what I think is most critical kind of is the profile. So I can't tell you where that's available. It's something we could certainly look at. The durability, I kind of, my thoughts when we were originally doing the vinyls would be durability as an issue too. My durability issue was more towards what you often get is the streaking on the vinyl and the vinyl breaking down visually. At least as far as a commission's looking at it, the vinyl, the fact that we're using black, I think assists that on the project to keep the kind of dirt streaking off you used to get. I look kind of at these profiles and the kind of the welds of the vinyl and was it better than what I've seen on a number of other ones before. So I was a little bit happier with it just architecturally on that. So again, I'm happy that the commission feels the profiles are appropriate. The owner thinks the durability of the product is good, and I think visually, at least being a black product too, and looking at the welds, I was more impressed than I had been previously with the vinyl windows. And again, I certainly we would not just internally do between glass spacers or internal muttons. We have identified we will do them internal spacers and on the exterior. Agreed. It's not an appropriate look without it.
Mr. Vice Chair.
I guess kind of my questions would be, they've been, obviously they're a different building. Every building is a little bit different. They've been approved before. I kind of question ourselves how they would be approved by you, knowing the commission here without the external mutton bars previously. But again, it's a different building. So.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I have two thoughts that have come after my comments earlier. One is that I'm seeing different photographs than I thought than I visited today. I guess I thought we're mostly looking at kind of industrial multi-light windows. And so I don't know, my sort of on-site experience, the ones I'm seeing photographed are non-existent. What I did notice on, I think this project that is being shown right now, or was shown just a moment ago, was how windows are installed can have as big of impact on the way we should be viewing these things as the window itself. So in other words, most of these better applications, I think, are in brick mold situations, and yet I've seen other installations where it's flush with the exterior rain screen, and it seems very bizarre, especially because on some of these, and I'm still having trouble parsing out which window's which, that the glazing doesn't have any setback from the frame itself. So I would recommend a lot of caution on an unknown window, and frankly, we might need to review a window that we might have accidentally approved, or with some amount of experimentation, now realizing that it's not appropriate or less appropriate than we thought. So if this is about, if we're going to lose some of that dimensionality between the glazing and the frame through a vinyl window, and or an installation technique that doesn't allow a proper setback of the window within the fascia, then I am definitely not in support of this, despite the profile. But that may have more to do with a installation detail than it does with the actual window. So my thoughts are just that I feel very nervous about how we're approving windows in these larger projects. I think they get overlooked, and there are some things that we should be paying more attention to. And the more we move toward a standard, the more we can control some of these unknowns. And if you could get any sort of clarification from staff of which is which, I would appreciate it for this moment.
For the photos that are in the materials?
Yes.
I believe those are some of the Jeffrey Park townhouses, and I believe those are the Lindsay windows, but I could be wrong. When they were submitted to me, I didn't have an address included with it.
I didn't have one either. Sorry, Kim. I'll see if I can find something quick, but I don't believe I was issued an address.
So I really think that some more commissioners need to see these windows up close and how they're installed to follow what I'm saying. But I defer to the chair on the matter.
Well, Ben, based on what I can read through the cut sheets of the application, the image that we see in front of us of the townhomes look to be what is being submitted. So it'll be a single hung. So the bottom window will be set back, not very much, but it'll be set back from the top window. Just for reference sake. That, and David, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is, from my understanding, pretty much what is being submitted in cut sheets is what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, the window has a nailing flange. Now, it probably can be a replacement that doesn't, but the window has a nailing flange now, so it will be, it's being drawn to, the nailing flange obviously is attached to the outside of the sheathing, so where we have brick, it will be set back. The front of that window will be set back roughly 3 inches from the face of the brick, I think, as in the majority of the cases. Then obviously it goes against in the courtyards and on the back against the wood siding. It would not be that deep, and it'll be more flush to the siding in those locations where it's not where we're not using brick, utilizing the brick.
Correct.
So you will get a deeper profile at the brick, yes.
And of the glazing to the frame, I'm seeing an awful lot of flushness on this particular image.
Well, I think your best, Ben, to look at, I think the detail that was up, I think Kim had up previously, at least represents it the best. Obviously, it is a single hung, so the bottom glass will be recessed, and that's deeper. The glazing to the front frame, I think it's fairly what you'd find on most, well, I say that most aluminums, but it is the glazing on the top portion, right? The fixed portion is obviously not deep like you'd be setting into a wood frame. But I think the profile at least offers some dimensionality to it as far as it's stepping back or stepping forward as you move out from the glass.
Right. I think that top left detail is the best one.
That's the best, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is you look at the 2.5 inch dimension, and instead of that dimension, look at the relief between the leading edge of the frame and the glazing. It's very shallow. And as I look at some of the other images where these windows are set into hardy board siding and so forth, it just compounds the matter. But I don't think I'm feeling comfortable with this particular window myself, so I'm not sure that I'll be in support until I get further review of.
I'm in favor of continuing this. I'm also concerned about our agenda time. It's now 4:46, and we're only through 2 projects. So I think we all have. I think the applicant has probably heard the concerns that we have, and I don't think we have information sufficient enough to make a decision on this evening.
All right. I'm going to take that as David's motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
That's to continue.
Yes. I'll go around. Lauren,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yeah.
Jason, Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So motion carries to continue this application. All right, and then on to application number 6, which is 21.
Number 5.
Number 5. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, 21-01-009, which is also 1050 North Front Street. And David is also our applicant. Is he good then? We don't need to swear him in for this one?
Yeah, he is good. I'll read over the staff report and then we can turn it over to him for any further explanation. So this proposed project is to reconfigure the courtyard, combining the landscaping bed and tree planting area, move 2 trees from North 4th Street to along Prue Alley. The total number of trees on the site does not change. The north elevation egress and water entry doors are reconfigured. Slope along this elevation is also altered. The placement and size of the artwork along the north elevation is altered. The mercantile space altered from 1 to 2 on the first floor. The terrace is downsized from 1710 square feet to 983.6 square feet on the 4th floor. The siding is changed in the, or not the siding, the rendering has changed, so the first floor courtyard area does stay the same, but the windows are altered along the north elevation. The east and south elevation first floor fenestration is altered. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that no break metal or inappropriate materials would be allowed. Commissioners remarked that moving the trees to Prue Alley may not be appropriate since they wanted to retain the trees on North 4th. The revised renderings were submitted, so this corrected some of the inconsistencies. And then in the replaced materials, staff did outline all of them in red, so it should be a little bit easier. Staff does recommend the approval of the application as submitted with any clarifications noted by the commission. The basis for recommendation are the standards for new construction, 3116.12, specifically A, D, and H. David, I will give it over to you to fill in any of the gaps.
I don't want to waste commission's time with too much detail on this, so let me try to hit what I consider the high points for you. The courtyard altered somewhat because we had shown previously in what you had approved a designated kind of pathway out the door that you see from the garage out to the street. That's not required with the grading. What became required with the grading was a ramp it's a single step and a ramp out of the mercantile space B as you see it on A11. In doing that, we had previously had and want to maintain a tree in the courtyard, so we kind of combined and we had some planting out towards the city sidewalk separated. So what we did was utilize that landscape bed and that tree bed, trying to combine them, make that a feature that bordered the ramp and set that ramp and utilized to set that ramp off, which gave us a nice seating area in the inner court and still allows us a seating area out towards the sidewalk. So that was the alterations we made in the courtyard, just kind of combined those two elements, mostly because of grading issues. I had been concerned that I wanted to run past the the board two other things. On the when we finally got a final survey and set the building in, we were a little tighter on the Detroit Avenue side. So if you look at the A22 or at the site plan, we did not have enough room to appropriately grow a tree on our lot. Between the garage entry where you see overhead door towards the water room, also the doors at the water room, and now coming out the stair, modified somewhat. That water room is the fire, it's access for fire too, and I didn't want to at this point impact what fire may consider safety or not by putting a location of the mural over top of the door. So it moved back or moved to the east in the location of where we could have it. We could certainly, if it's an issue, that mural could expand all the way over further east, which I've kind of shown a dashed line on the elevation in A22. So I want everybody able to see that. We took the two trees, moved them to the alley. It's certainly possible to move one of those trees to the south side of the building, but I think ultimately they'll get more exposure and do more good kind of on that alley side anyways. The other thing I did, as we're losing trees in that location, I added kind of a trellis element on the Detroit Street side, so that we could still maintain some greenery, and it would provide a little bit of ability for a kind of entry or softening that entry where we'll have the overhead door. We've lost trees along that wall, so I wanted to enhance just the shrubs below with another element that would provide some greenery along there. The windows did slightly change over the overhead door on the Detroit Avenue side. Mostly because of what's going on in the interior, just walls. So we did pull apart a grouping of the windows, so they altered slightly from before. There's not less glass. The window system, I don't know if it was properly rendered before, but it is the same in that area. And those are the windows in this project that would look a little more of the industrial size, and the ones that have the full interior and exterior or buttons on all of the glass, which they previously had before. On the alley side, the previous renderings, we had at one time figured we'd have a number of louvers along the alley. Those no longer exist. The louvers only need to exist then along on the south side of the building for ventilation of the garage. So the alley side along the pedestrian walk of the first level will all be masonry. So it's really just taking those louvers out. I think those are the critical elements. Yes, just the patio space on the fourth floor changed because we're not able to utilize that space. So there'll be some it really just railing off an area of patio on the fourth floor that cannot be utilized and has to be utilized for mechanical and not for occupancy.
I'm not hearing anything anymore.
I'm not either.
Anyone else hearing anything?
No, David.
Maybe somebody send him a message.
I'm doing that.
Thanks, Nolan.
Are the commissioners able to talk
Yeah.
so that we could get some discussion going? When David,
Who's the chair? Did we lose Todd and?
I think we lost Todd.
Uh-oh. Well, Jason's abstaining from this one.
Okay. Well, I think that we should start talking so we don't lose time here. I'm mostly supportive of the project, except I'd like to ask the applicant if they would expand the trellis to be the full length between the pilasters. And I would also be supportive of expanding the mural so it fits between the pilasters. The it's cut out where the door is, but mostly about the trellis.
Then can I add on to your thought? Would you be willing to trade locations? Put the mural where the trellis is, which is a greater space to use and would have more impact, and then bring the trellises over to the two spaces remaining to these service doors, which virtually ought to be changed in color so they go away. They're not public doors. Those are, if I understand correctly, those are only for the fire department and other utilities. And there's no need to make them stand out like the two black dots that are showing on this right now. So I would support that. Okay, so the mural goes to the far left and fills the entire area. We neutralize those doors, we paint them out, or we make them go away, and then you put the trellises in those two panels. So it'd be one on the right, one on the left.
Perfect. Shannon, any thoughts?
I think David's plan is great. I would definitely say the two trellises on either side of the doors if we do that. Let's just lean into the trellis if we're going to do that. The other thing I would say, though, is potentially why don't we move the mural up on the blank space of the wall above the first service door so it's a little bit more visible. Yeah, right there.
Just remember that's a one-way street. And
right. So
you're not going to see it unless you go down Detroit. So now we're
either way.
You're out of the visual cone, though.
But either way, it's kind of out of view.
Although you'd see it from your car window as you pull into Detroit and get to the parking garage, but visual cone while at the top of a car is going to stop you from seeing something on the second and third floor. And one other thing, as a commissioner, based on what we did about 10 minutes ago, is see the sticking in the windows over the garage door. Let's make sure that all of these windows have mullions on the outside. Let's make sure that anything that would be approved tonight, that we make sure that the applicant understands that we have to have the mullions on the exterior.
So the window application and this application are the same address?
Correct.
Okay, I just feel that we postponed or we continued the window, but I think we could in this motion make sure that it is restated that we want mullions on the exterior.
Yep. Brooke, any thoughts?
I don't have anything to add. I definitely agree with David's comment about moving the mural and adding, moving the one trellis to one and adding another trellis to the other door location. Other than that, I don't have any comments. I like Shannon's idea about the mural on the upper part of the wall, but if it's not visible, I guess that's a moot point.
Lauren, any thoughts?
I definitely agree about moving the mural over and taking the trellis out. I think I'm the only commissioner who thinks that adding the trellis next to a painted door is going to be the exact same issue we're experiencing with the trellis on large wall. It's going to look off, but if everyone else is good, I'm for it.
Gotcha. And I don't have any additional comments. Agree with everybody. I think the evolution of the project has been nice, and I think a lot of the changes, David, that you mentioned due to grading and all those things, I think you've incorporated fairly well. So it sticks to the original kind of intent that we were for. So with that, would somebody like to make a motion?
I just have one more question for David, if he can respond. Originally, the original concept, this is the durable slate site, and there were some stone lentils that were to be reused and incorporated. I don't see where they are in these new renderings and elevations.
They will be done, and they are up on the on sheet A21, David. They are noted brick veneer soldier and Corba salvage decorative limestone insert.
Thanks.
They are,
Great. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Great.
There was also another plaque in the courtyard that's remaining that came up previously with a little historical piece. So that's not, yes, they will remain.
Great. Thank you. So in light of that,
And I'm fine with the comments. I'm all good with that. Great.
okay, so I would like to move on approving this application with the noted changes on the north side of the building related to the mural and to the trellising. Recommendation to neutralize the utility door colors and not make them as architecturally standing out. And that the applicant knows that all mullions, or we need the exterior mullions on any windows.
Second, Goodman.
All right. Lauren,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So motion carries. Thanks, David. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jump back in here. All right, so we're moving on to number 6, correct, Steph?
Correct.
All right, I'll turn it over to you.
Alrighty, just to note, it is 5:03, and we've got through 3 of these. So can we pick up the pace for the next couple, maybe?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so this is 39 East Hubbard Avenue, IV-21-01-010. And before I forget, we do have a speaker for this. So it'll go me, applicants, Whistler, and speakers. So this is an application to construct a mixed-use building with an overall height of 91 feet, 9 inches. This building would have 3 floors of parking, 50 spaces with 1 below grade. The first floor would have a coffee shop off the lobby, a white box office space with bathroom core on level 3, and 37 apartment buildings starting at level 4. Apartments would be flats on levels 4 through 6 and 2 stories at level 7. The east elevation would include 3 murals. Exterior materials would include vertical metal panel, regular metal panel, glazed brick, stone veneer, granite, patterned glass, and operable windows. This was previously reviewed at the November 10th, 2020 hearing. The meeting minutes are provided below with comments on that review. Commissioners at the business meeting were very pleased with the proposed coffee shop retail space on the first floor of the building facing the park. They thought it responded to their previous concerns and interacted well with the park. Commissioners were hesitant about the proposed murals. They thought more work regarding them was likely to be needed in order to find an appropriate solution. Requested that vehicular access was paid attention to. Cut product sheets of the black metal panel were requested. Commissioners wanted to see the product's detail. The applicant clarified that the metal panel, the lower floors would be a formed metal panel or insulated metal panel. A brake metal panel that size would have oil canning. The applicant clarified that the parking would be private. Staff recommends approval as submitted with any clarifications, modifications noted by the commission. Basis for staff recommendation is 3116.12, standards for new construction, specifically A, C, D, F, G, H, and K. And I will turn it over to you, Jason, so we can swear in our applicant.
Sounds good. And who do we have from the applicant team today?
Tyler Poole, Mark Wood, and Derek Cohen.
Okay, so we've got Daniel, Mark, and somebody. Who else? Who was the last person? I'm sorry.
Derek.
Oh, Derek. Okay, great. Thank you. So, Daniel, do you want to start by stating your name for the record?
Daniel Haynes.
And Mark as well.
Mark Wood.
And Derek.
Derek Cohen.
And you all promise.
Here as
All right.
well.
Oh, one more. I'm sorry. So last name
Pool, P-U-H-L.
and somebody else too.
Yes, Abby Stiers.
Okay, thanks, Abby. Staff, do you have all those names?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Do you all promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
Yes.
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 Great. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I know everyone's time's tight tonight, so I'll try to go through this quickly. We had reviewed this in November, and sort of the comments that I think were of major concern was sort of addressing how we're hitting this building at the ground, having a better entrance shown, and also how we're addressing the park and sort of the notion of public safety on the park as well too. So the major changes that we had done is we introduced a small coffee shop that would be usable for residents and for folks at the park level as well too. We've defined the entry piece to the facility that's off of Hubbard there with sort of a canopy. And then we've also, to address the park, I think that some of the things that we have done since then sort of a concern was sort of how we delineated the landscaping next to the building so that the office would get a much better kind of view of the park, or more given greater security. And then we had the notion of putting some murals up there. What we're showing is was our first thought, kind of a placeholder, and maybe Mark could talk a little bit about that. But I think the thought was that there were some George Bellows murals that were raised in the in an older project that we would then reincorporate into this one. So I'll just leave it at that, and hopefully let people have more time to discuss.
Yeah, I think that the murals are really a placeholder. We had the mural on the side of the building where the Pearl is before the Pizzuti building went up. There was an urban George Bellows mural. So we just kind of a nod of that history, show three pieces of work from George on this building. So really, what we would expect to happen is that there'd be more community engagement in terms of, the artwork that would actually be selected for the project.
Okay, great. Let's go around through the commission and see what folks have to say. Who wants to start this one? Anybody in particular?
I think we have to listen to our speakers.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
We have speakers.
That's right. We have a speaker. How many speakers do we have?
Andy, is it just going to be you, or Jenny, would you like to speak as well?
It's just Andy, but I can help answer any questions too.
Well, if you're answering any questions, we need to swear you in.
Oh, then I will let Andy take it from here.
Just swear me in.
Sounds good. So, Andy, will you please state your name for the record?
Andrew Douglas Plunkett.
And you promise to tell the truth, the best of your ability, in your testimony this evening.
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So, how much time does he have? I forgot.
3 minutes, and I'll begin timing when you start speaking.
All right.
Okay. Quick mic check. Am I good?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Go. Okay, my name is Andy Plunkett. I am a 20-year resident of Italian Village. I live on Warren Street. I've been active with the IVS since roughly around 2010. I was ancillarily involved with the effort to build Parkside and Pearl back in, we'll say, 2013. Since then, I've done a number of things with the park. So I am the guy that will go down with my wheelbarrow, even though there's not a park cleanup, and pick up trash. Take care of it, clip tree branches. The short of it is green space in Italian Village is shrinking. And, my ask for the commission and for the group is that we interact with the community much like this building is. So it's right up to the edge of the park. I'm interested in getting neighbors involved just so that they can see what this building is, as parks are basically their meeting places. They intrinsically represent the value of the community. It's accessible to all members. But the thing about Italian Village Park is it's really the centerpiece of the village. So I am not a design guy. I think it looks really good, but what I would ask is that we can get Wood Company and the IVC, maybe with the IVS group, to solicit feedback. We could post some signs letting people know that this building is going to be built and getting feedback on what that design looks like, because it'll be here for the foreseeable future. And I think that intrinsically with an interactive park, that is the most important thing that we can do, is just be interactive with the community. I am also, as I mentioned, the IVS park chair. So for the IVS, one of the concerns we had was around the easement, which we can see in the drawings, but I understand is not a focal part of the conversation today. And that is just asking that before a decision is reached by the commission, the Italian Village Society would like to request that a condition be added that the Wood Company proposal, that the condition is to have the Italian Village Society's membership ultimately decide, with recommendations from the wood companies and as well as from the city, how the transitional space outside of the coffee shop is used between Italian Village Park and the wood company's Parkside on Pearl development. As my statement, I am under 3 minutes, and thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate you being on today and giving us some feedback from the society, and we'll be sure to talk about that more, I'm sure, as we go through this process. So.
Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, so that's it for public speakers. Is that correct? Okay, thanks. So let's go around, and is there anybody on the commission that particularly wants to start, or should I just go through the roll? Okay, hearing none, I will just we'll just get rolling. Shannon, you want to start off?
Sure. Thanks, Andy, for your comments. I'm really happy, that Wood Companies was able to, make this change with having the coffee shop on the park. Also very happy with the entrance to the building, marking that. I think that there's potentially, obviously some concern about ensuring that any use on the park stays coffee shop-like and is, not a bar, anything like that. But, just from the communications that we've been receiving from wood companies regarding what's going on at Seesaw, I think that, because their residents are going to be in this building, I'm not too concerned about that because it would kind of hurt them first. And so I think that I really welcome working with IVS on, exactly how that transition will look. But otherwise, I'm very, very happy with kind of the turn of events with this. I think this is going to really activate the park and make it something that I don't know, I'm trying to say this without sounding bad, but there's been a large homeless population issue lately, and I think that the more you have an activated park, the less likely it is that folks are going to loiter or litter and things like that. I think this will actually make it easier to upkeep the park for the community. So those are my comments.
Great. Let's move on. David?
I want to lend my support to moving forward with this and certainly reconnecting with the society on it. I think the concept of reinstalling the Bellows murals has great potential. The three of them nestled together really makes a reason to come around the corner and experience them. So I see it being a way to educate more people to the Italian Village Park. So lots of positive things from where this project started, and I hope it will move forward.
Okay, great. Somebody's got their phone ringing there.
I did, and I couldn't do both at the same time, so I
fair enough. Good enough. Lauren?
I agree with my and everything to add.
Okay, sounds good. Ben?
Well, I'm going to arc backwards a little bit and say that I still wish that we had been able to get some single-family homes here. The whole square is faced with homes and entrances, but I'm afraid I've established a few cues that led us towards this. So I think as far as a taller building goes, and understanding that it's in the shadow of the Moxie and another tall building, it's a reasonable solution. And the architect has it right that it does become about the features at the ground level of human scale. And I do think that the entrance has been improved, and with this notion of retail, I think that's good. I am not as enthusiastic yet about the murals because I'm afraid I feel like they're a little overscaled for the sort of viewpoint that you have, and so I would challenge the architect and Mark to move past this as a placeholder and get really earnest about if it actually is going to be a bellows and in its actual treatment, that perhaps it moves towards something that is a mosaic as opposed to just printed graphics onto concrete board. So I am dubious about the artwork presently, but I really support the idea of this kind of walk or this pass through adjacent to the building. I would like the developer and architect to consider the possibility of plantings at the base of where those murals are, just in case it becomes a better idea to have plantings in scale or low plantings or some sort of combination of both. And sort of coupled with that is just how lighting is going to work with that whole framing of art and plants. So I'm going to support the project with the exception of those things I'm expressing concern about.
Sounds good. Thank you. Brooke?
I'm really happy with the way this project has developed. And I feel like all the comments that we have made over the past few months that we've seen that have been taken seriously. And I really think it looks great. With regard to the murals, I looked at this as kind of a concept and not perhaps the actual thing. I love the idea of a bellows mural series here, and whether it's on backer board or a mosaic tile, I think there's more thought there. Ben's comment about having plantings along the base of the mural might help soften the seating area for where we see the tables there for people using the coffee shop. But I don't think that is a deal breaker in my mind. So I think this is great. I also think that this project will help enliven the park and probably add some level of security to it. That's all.
Thanks. Todd?
I will offer my support for this project as well. I think it's evolved nicely. I think the answer to the metal panel question is sufficient. I think that's what we would expect, so that's nice. My only hesitation is following up on what Brooke and Ben have stated about the murals, and more importantly to me is actually the development of that plaza space, actually bringing it to life a little bit, so it feels as an extension of the park versus just a fire access drive, which it does right now to me if there are no seats out there. So I think that evolution will be critical to the success of this building. Otherwise, the architecture I think is great and totally support.
I'll just make I'm sorry, somebody had something? Oh, okay. I'll just make a few quick comments. Overall, I think the project, the urban form and the modifications to the building have been successful. I mean, it's similar in urban form to the way it was before, but I think some of the tweaks, particularly the way the vehicles access now, the opportunities to clean up the alley a little bit, and the overall way that the upper stories are engaging, I think the surrounding area a little bit more than it did before are all big positives. I'm excited about the hope to have an operating coffee shop there. I think I'm also realistic about the fact that there's not that much we can do to control that once it gets going. But I think having the opportunity to reserve some retail space there for that kind of use is great. I think the bigger thing that we need to think about, which I think is a great positive here, is to have this managed plaza space, which will be managed by this building, because it's going to be certainly the high incentive of the building to please the tenants that are there, and they're going to want to have that space be cared for, and however that ends up working out. And obviously, operationally, does that mean tables and chairs get taken out and in every day? Who knows? That's all something to be worked out. But I do think that that's a really big positive to have this linked to a private development project. That being said, completely sympathetic to what the representatives of the society have been telling us and continue to tell us today, that we really need community input to understand how that edge works. I think this is a really strong solution. Some of the things I like best about it, one is creating that distinct paved plaza space, which really sets up the edge of the park nicely. Little details like, who knows if this will fly once we go through the process with Rec and Parks, but having those lighted bollards that you're showing in the renderings, kind of gives a sense of the edge of the space, but also ties it back into the architecture, makes it feel like, it is a space that is sort of to be respected as part of the building, yet is also not barricading anybody walking through and being part of that space, like a fence would be. So I think those are all really, really strong elements. Regarding bringing the society and the public into this, I'm completely in accord with that suggestion that we have this eventual decision on how this plaza space and edge works be contingent upon agreement between the society and Parks and Rec, as it was in the initial agreement, which however many years ago that was, 4 or 5 years ago now. I think that's a great way to bring more community members in. I'll let staff speak to the details of this. Some of the more specific recommendations about us outreaching to the community, we're a little hamstrung on our ability to do that on a particular project. As a regulatory commission, we have to kind of treat every single application in the same way. That being said, the more that the society can bring in the interests of the community and those voices, we're definitely all in favor of that. But I'll let the staff address any further questions about what we can and can't do as far as sort of requiring an applicant or ourselves posting things, as far as gathering independent community output or input rather. With all that, I'm also in favor of it. I would entertain a motion that would place those conditions that we talked about, most specifically the ones suggested by the society. If anyone cares to make that tonight, and then exempting the other final elements that Ben also mentioned when he was discussing his comments. Does the applicant want to say anything before we move forward?
No, I just want to recognize that we have understood that the hardscape area and any transition to the park is a process, a community process. Is one that has to be vetted with the Parks and Rec. We've had meetings on and off over the years, but that's something we will have to work through. It seems like what we presented is a good solution for a conversation starter with all of the parties, but exactly how it gets finished, is something that does need to be a community effort. So we fully embrace that. I think what we're hoping is that we've addressed the building architectural concerns that you've raised in the past, and we can move forward with that part of the project in terms of getting, we need to go back and get variances approved and those types of things. We know we won't be able to start anything until we have a full agreement with Parks and Rec, which requires the neighborhoods, being engaged and having something that works for everyone. So.
Excellent. Yeah, and I will say this doesn't guarantee success, but I have had a conversation with Rec and Parks just to sort of fill them in on my understanding of what had happened in the previous application review and the initial park redesign. Email exchange back and forth with Alex from the city, who is actually one of the folks on the call here today, since he's highly involved with the UIRF funding, and then also had talked to Jenny with the society to fill her in on what I knew. All that to explain to everybody, there's no guarantee this is going to work out perfectly, but I feel like much more than 5 or 6 years ago, everybody seems to be pulling in the same direction. So I hope the way these things usually go is if they start off well and everybody's talking to each other, the conclusion is successful. And we do appreciate, Andy, you being here today to tell us what's going on from the Parks group there. And hopefully you will get a happy conclusion to this and we'll all have a really great new park. And I should say, I think the commission knows this, but just for anybody in the public that's listening that doesn't, there's actually a chunk of money to help restore the park in general that goes on top of this that's being funded through another mechanism. So I think it's a really cool option. Anyone care to make a motion? All right, Ben, let's hear it. I think you might be muted, Ben.
Oh, sorry.
I move on application 21-01010, 39 East Hubbard, to approve with the following stipulations and understandings. That the applicant is to continue to work with Recreation and Parks and the Italian Village Society to establish a community-based set of dialogue meetings and solutions that work well on the west edge of the park that is adjacent to this project. But our basic understandings as a commission are that there will probably be hardscape and illumination along the extreme east edge of that hardscape, and that there will be artwork to be determined, both in content and execution. Though we do understand that the limitations are that is an opaque wall. We also talked about the possibility of planting along the base of those art walls. Probably, I'm just going to add on my own, in the same sort of vernacular that's being expressed at the main entrance. And I'll mention briefly that because metal paneling has been a point of interest lately, that the applicant has shown an appropriate type of metal paneling that shows a 3 to 4 millimeter thick metal panel, which is much more appropriate than brake metal. I think I've covered everything, but somebody can address more in a second.
Anyone else? Anything to request?
Just for clarification, wouldn't it be either, rather than his first words were approval, that we would say this motion is to continue, and then he's clearly stated the things that we still want discussion and interaction with the society?
My understanding was a motion to approve with conditions.
Yeah, that's the way I worded it.
So we would be approving with the conditions that those other things have to come
with exception to.
Okay, and I'll second.
Okay. I will call the roll. Ben?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
And Jason's yes. It's motion carries. So we look forward to continuing, and hopefully everything goes great with the process. We're excited about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we did not follow staff's recommendation to speed up, but we are now in conceptual reviews, so I have high hopes. So over to you, staff, for number 7.
All right, this is IV-21-01-011. 1131 North 4th Street. This is a conceptual review, an exterior remodel of a historic building. In an effort to save time, I'm not going to go through all the detail, but it was kind of siding, adding some exterior space, including a wrought iron fence, and then changing out the windows. Commissioners found the building contributing to the district at the business meeting and would rather see a rehabilitation of the original facade than a covering it up with the hardy board. Commissioners want to see the original brick, though they could be okay with other proposed details such as the awnings. The cut product sheet of the proposed hardy board was requested. Some commissioners found the proposed wrought iron gate did not fit in with the proposed fence. Per 3116.11 standards for alteration, the distinguishing characteristics of a property should not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of any historic materials or distinctive architectural features should be avoided whenever possible. Distinctive stylistic features and examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property should be treated with sensitivity, and deteriorated architectural features should be repaired, then replaced whenever possible. A staff recommendation is commissioners should offer feedback for use at a future hearing, though I did receive an email from the architect that the architect was not able to attend tonight. So if we do not have the owner or our applicant, I would say that if there weren't any additional comments from the business meeting, then we should kind of move forward with this. And the
Guess no action, right? Because it's conceptual.
yes, the architect did say that they had, they had listened in to the business meeting, or that they'd read my comments and were in the process of addressing them, so that they were going to, I think, lean towards the rehabilitation as opposed to using the hardy board. So there would be a revised application. If it is just rehabilitation, I can probably staff or approve some stuff, but things like the wrought iron fence would have to come back regardless.
Okay, sounds good. So do we have anyone from the applicant side on tonight? I don't see any names that match. Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, do you have any further comments to make, or can we move on to the next one?
Let's move.
Okay, sounds good. All the comments are the same as I thought last week, so let's do it.
One other thing, though, before you move on, let's just start to pay attention to where the entrance is and what kinds of modifications, if any, we might allow, even with the the envelope as is. So just want to get that in into your thoughts and into the future discussion.
To respect the current openings, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that there might be some ways to disrespect the current opening
Okay.
that are reasonable and would be a good sort of compromise to keeping the existing envelope.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Okay, so staff, whenever you're ready, we can move to the next one.
All right, number 8 is IV-21-01-012. This is 299 Dickinson Street, also reviewed as Jeffrey Park, Phase 9. This is a conceptual review to construct a 5-story mixed-use building. The building would have 5 office stories, 4 stories of garage, 5 stories of apartments, and amenities. The exterior material would consist of brick, composite panel, horizontal and vertical formed metal panel, aluminum louvers, and wood soffits. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that they would prefer to see the mass distributed in contrast to it being in bulk. Height variation was requested. A suggestion of creating an alley through the building was made. How the exterior materials come together is important. Commissioners thought that the building should be a signature building in the area. It currently looks like residences with the windows porch layout. Commissioners noted that the materials and appearance would be helpful. Commissioners, you should have received a revised packet of materials with the updated renderings. So since this is conceptual, please offer feedback for use at a future hearing. Basis for recommendation, it's the standards for new constructions, 3116.12. And I know I did see Rob on here earlier.
Yep, I think he was on there. Rob, you still out there?
It will be Pete Scott to present.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, great. Will each of you raise your right hand and state your name for the record? Peter, if you want to start.
Peter Scott.
And then Rob.
Rob Harris.
And do you each promise to tell the truth in your testimony, the best of your ability this evening?
Yes.
Okay, great. So take it away.
Okay. Well, I think we listened in and took the comments in the business meeting and had some discussion and reworked the building a little bit. I think if you go through the packet, you'll see that we modified the massing of the main residences and modified a little bit of the what we'll call the really schematic design of the office space. Obviously, the office space is very conceptual at this time. And the effort is to secure a tenant and potentially design that space around that. But we did make some modifications to the northwest corner along Dickinson 6 to create some massing changes to the overall skin of the building and change a little bit of the parapet line. I know you are very familiar with this property and the development that has been going on for some time. We felt the location of this property, I think if you go one more page, please, that'd be helpful. There's the updated northwest corner. The location of this property along the to the south, having that 670 kind of offering, affected by its elevation delta between 670 and this building's finished first floor. Really, it sits in and being the south point of the entire Park development is in a unique situation, and it has to address a lot of different things. So the overall concept and building plan addresses and tries to tie into the public park development that has already been developed in the neighborhood by kind of pulling part of the north facade of this building and pulling that public park amenity through, breaking that facade along that north face, but then also turns and actually in the current design, that public park kind of landscape amenity goes through and under a bridge in the center of the building and connects the two amenities courtyard spaces. That of course helps break a little bit of that massing on the north end. But then since the previous version that we had submitted, we broke and accentuated the northwest corner of the building, bringing in some additional color, raising the parapets, and we're continuing to look at how we can break a little bit of the massing apart between this corner element and the rest of the building. The goal, though, for the overall massing of the building, though, is not to be too overly fussy, I guess, or articulating the parapet. We feel it needs to be a little cleaner delineation between the massings and that parapet line because of what's going on north of this project, but also being located along 670. You'll also see in the elevations, we modified that southern elevation to show the elevation of the 670 line. And again, it's diagrammatic because it's obviously changing a little bit in its vertical elevation as it passed by the building. But this is the average height of 670 on the lower elevation in your screen. And you can see how much of the building and the parking garage is actually below that 670 line. And that line represents the road height. We have a little bit of obviously a barrier at the edge of the highway, but then of course the drop off below that road to the finished floor, the first floor. The exterior building materials, I know that there were some comments about the exterior building materials. The plan is that obviously the building is not going to be an all brick building. The plan is that we will utilize brick along the first floor and the majority of the first floor perimeter of the residences. The parking garage obviously is a concrete parking garage. And then the main skin of the building will be made up of a ceramic coated panel called Ceraclad is where we're currently sitting. and also other materials that are found within the Jeffrey Park, which is metal siding, either corrugated or a horizontal or vertical fashion. And then some of the recessed balconies of the project we'd like to, and some of the public, what we call the public touches of the entry area, we're looking at using some wood tone products. So it's either a thermally modified wood or some sort of warmer material that gives you a little bit more of that interaction with the public or pedestrian. You'll also see the massing, and I'll finish up here quickly because I know there's a time constraint. The massing in this view along the streetscape lifts up a little bit to open up and allow a little bit more pedestrian friendly, connecting this entry and this kind of landscape amenity courtyard with the courtyard or with the park and the public access, which is fairly aligned as you go north of this into the public park.
Okay, great. Thanks for the overview. Let's run through the commissioners and see where we stand. I'll just kind of shoot down my list real quick. Todd, you want to jump in?
Sure. Start with my notes here. I think for one of the things that I would say that I appreciate is definitely the comment that you made concerning the attempt to relate to kind of that green alley across the street that connects to the public park. I appreciate that that's kind of connecting into, which is shown here on the screen. I do really appreciate that nod. I know that that's something that we've been working on in the past. And one of the other things that I actually like about this image is that lounge space on the first floor. Starts to provide some interaction to that plaza, that park. I think even that piece could be emphasized a little bit more to help break up some of the mass of that consistent cladding, as well as be somewhat of a beacon across for others from the park, perhaps. Some of the things that I guess I'm concerned with, and I know it's evolution stuff, but really how this apartment complex kind of connects to the office building is a little concerning at this point. Obviously, you haven't figured out the office piece, but I think that I see as a challenge right now, as well as how that third floor, or I guess it's the fifth floor amenity space, just kind of plops on top of the parking garage. I think that's a detail that really needs some looking into or some development as you move forward. And then lastly, when it comes to, and we kind of discussed this early in our meeting, but per your comment of kind of the simplicity, trying to keep the forms and materials simple, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think it just makes you really have to lean in hard with the nuanced details about how that kind of consistent, lighter ceramic composite panel, I think it is more the white tone in your rendering, really interfaces with the windows that you select and things like that. I think that's where this project for me right now, and the way I look at it, kind of walks a fine line of looking, could be very sophisticated and interesting, or it could fall the other way. And that's what I'm hesitant about and don't want it to go that way. So I'll just look for those kind of continued nuanced details as you move forward. Thanks, Jason.
Great. Shannon?
It's hard for me to give comment on this like general project. I seem to remember this kind of being the marquee kind of building in the back, and it's now turned into just what really looks like just a very large apartment building. And if it's going to stay kind of this height and form, I'd like to see some variation from what we've been doing on the property. I mean, everything is just really all looks alike at this point. So I guess I don't have too many comments other than hearing what the other commissioners kind of think about that. Just because I just wasn't expecting that this was going to be the final form and height and all of that at this edge of the building. And I'm not sure how I really feel about something like this kind of going in the back. So that's really my comment right now.
Okay. Brooke?
I think these are all good comments that Todd and Shannon have offered. I definitely agree. I like the simplicity of the building with the composite material. Although I do think that Todd's absolutely right about the detailing of that and where the detailing or lack of detailing could take it. I appreciate the finesse that this corner has gone through compared to the previous submission, and think that can be kind of interesting. I think that's it. I don't think I have any more to add beyond what Shannon and Todd have expressed.
Okay. Ben? Are you muted, Ben?
I gotta stop doing that. Okay, I think some great things going on here, but I am unfortunately going to sound probably a little more negative because I don't think the applicant is listening in terms of variation of our height. You know, we were concerned about height before, but it wasn't necessarily the height itself. It was just that it was just so bulking and massive. So in general, I think what's important is that you hear from me that if there was any inclination for a tower, it's not that that's out of bounds from my standpoint, especially near 670, that it should just occupy, you know, the footprint of where the office building is or where the garage is, and that's it. And everything else can start to play kind of a plinth kind of role to that tower. But if you're convinced that you can't do the tower for whatever reason, let's go to the plan and talk about some things that Todd first brought up. And that is the way this sort of lounge and entrance to the courtyard marries up with the park across, or this sort of circulation across the road, whose name I forget right now. You know, that is the right move, except that from my perspective, in the effort to kind of break down, you know, from more suburban-like developments into inner city developments, that passageway should go all the way through to the fire lane and create basically a separation, if you will, of the garage from the office building. And that until that happens, this kind of inviting you know, space, public space where the lounge is, it just becomes kind of an ant trap. It kind of lures, but it doesn't become an amenity for anybody else but the users of the building, which is nice. And I understand as a developer why you'd want that, but we also want to try to create you know, streetscapes and, you know, outdoor space that anybody can travel through, and more importantly, fit the fabric of the roadways that is typical for Italian Village. So I'm going to say that some sort of passageway all the way through there is what I'd be looking for to get my support. I say that the inward facing of amenities is not the right thing to do. That on some more architectural treatments, projecting balconies are not as favorable as inward balconies. So you have mostly sort of pocket balconies, which is good, but there's a couple places where they're projecting, which is not good. The way it hits the ground and the way it's sort of human scale, you can stop on that image right there for a second. In that, again, the lounge on the sort of west side of this approach is really quite good. And the other thing that's quite good about that particular building is its cantilever effect, which I think you should try to exercise more so that it hits the ground in a more unique way than some of the other sort of bulking buildings that are in this project and nearby. The idea on the left of the signage and that sort of opposing wall is not appropriate. It probably should somehow better mimic the glass and lounge stuff on the other side. So both of those things are about the way it hits the ground and the way it relates to human scale and the streetscape, which I think are very important. And I'll just emphasize again, breaking down the project, having passageways all the way through.
Okay, thanks. Lauren?
In the spirit of saving time, just kind of echo Commissioner Fergus's sentiments and say that I stand behind what the previous commissioners have said.
Okay, David.
I'm going to talk quickly because I have an obligation at 6 o'clock, so I will be leaving. But to just comment, I'm extremely disappointed in the uniform height across the whole project of the apartment building. Could we go back to one of the slide picture or image pictures that shows the theoretical connection to the park? Yeah, I guess looking at this, the building that is on our right, I'd like to see the glass lounge area be pushed back and open this up to a wider entrance in there. Take off the 8 apartments on this end. The density is just insane again for this project, and the fact that it's all cut off at the top. We talked about more variety in height, and driving around the apartment place, do you feel like there's any entrances? Do any of you have any idea how you get in this big mass as you drive around? Look at the plan. There's no curb cuts. There's no awnings you see or canopies that identify where you come into this building. It just seems like it's way too dense, way too even on the height. And I certainly support the other commissioners' comments. So there's a lot more work to do on this, and we'll leave it as a concept.
Okay, I'm not going to add too much. I will say I do like the idea of this courtyard that's breaking down the space. I do understand the concerns that are being put out there as far as sort of that bulk of the one side of the street being. It's not just the continualness of it. I think it's something else. It's just about the nature of the architecture that other folks are bringing up. So that uniformity of height in that particularly long section as you go all the way through. The office element on the other end is great. I think that would be helpful to differentiate how this works. And I hope that is something that actually would occur. But I don't really have anything else new to add other than I definitely think that putting the courtyard in there, whether it be in that location or another one, is an asset, and I think it works in the right direction. Also do appreciate you putting the elevation of the highway on there. That's illustrative for me. Still concerned that we use some high quality materials on those smaller portions of the buildings that are more activated that face 670, since that really will be the thing that is seen by most people as they're coming into the area. So with that, any very quick questions from the applicant, because we do need to move on to our other cases.
Rob Harris here.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, thank you very much. All the critique and comments I've heard are very constructive and very doable. I think you have some great directions there, and we will certainly work very hard in the next week to get the application back to have you look at it again. And you'll be looking at this over a new period of 3 to 4 months, of course, so we can finally evolve this. But thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
Yes.
Yep. And Peter, thanks very much. Okay. So staff, moving on to the 9th application of the day.
Yes, and just as a quick pause, it is a 6, or almost 6, which is the slotted end of our hearing. Are all the commissioners, aside from David, who has already left, good to continue on?
Yes.
I can, except for I mentioned I have to leave at 6:30. That's it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm hoping we can get through number 9 in the next half hour, but we still have number 10 after this. So we have highly positive hopes for the last 2 applications.
I'll have to step away. Sorry.
Okay. Ready. Well, we should have a quorum through the rest of this one, but this is IV-21-01-013, 700 North High Street. This is the conceptual review to renovate an existing historic commercial restaurant facades on Lincoln Street and North High Street. This includes combining the parcels. The west elevation and corner entry would be completely removed, while portions of the north elevation will be removed to create an expanded window opening and a new lobby entrance at the east end of the elevation. Proposed renovation of the High Street elevation will provide increased visibility and daylight for the space within while maintaining that principal corner entry. A terracotta sunshade system is also proposed across the new double height of the curtain wall that connects the Carriage House Place elevation to the south and materially continues with the brick. The north elevation maintains most of its existing painted block to be clean, pointed, and repainted. Care will be taken to either steer clear of the cornerstone or find a suitable place for its relocation. The new expanded window openings will accommodate aluminum glass overhead doors, the opening the dining experience to Lincoln Street. Painted brick planters over each window provide a touch of green and buffer the bifolding windows on the second floor. The eastern edge of the north elevation is removed to provide a transparent entry point and daylight lobby for the Carriage House Place tenants and restaurant patrons. The rooftop, the second floor dining space, pulls back from High Street and Lincoln facades in support of massing that communicates with the northeast corner building and proportional break to avoid bulkiness. Painted nickel slot siding visually recedes, and the rooftop projection provides a note of clear cedar. The gabled aluminum and glass skylight atop is pulled back further again and not visible from the street, and more an interior feature than compositional element of the exterior. So commissioners at the business meeting were not opposed to the glass facade. They did note that the building has had quite a few alterations over the course of time. Concern was raised regarding the red bars on the sunscreen. Omitting those was suggested. It was also noted that there needed to be a dialogue with the adjacent buildings. If a screening system were to be considered, perhaps a more refined datum referring to the existing buildings would be a bit more appropriate. One commissioner suggested that the recessed roofline be brought back up to match the adjacent High Street. Roofline commissioners agreed that this was a very avant-garde and would likely be a longer conversation during the hearing. Staff does recommend that, since this is conceptual, to provide feedback to be used at a future hearing. Recommendation or basis for recommendation are the standards for alteration, specifically 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11. I believe I saw our applicant on here.
Is it Mark again, I would imagine?
Yes, hi.
And Derek again?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you're already sworn in from a previous application, so no need to do that again. Is there anyone else that will be presenting with you today?
Joe,
hey, Joe.
here.
So, Joe, will you state your name for the record, please?
Joseph Andrew Moss.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening.
Yes.
Okay, great. Take it away.
Well, Kimberly did a great job presenting for us here, and it sounds like we just need to have a chance to respond. So I was not present at the business meeting, so some of the comments are being explained to me fresh here tonight. So a key question I think that we would have is if there is any objection to the terracotta sunshade system, if someone could be more explicit about what the objections might be and sort of give us something to work with there. I could explain our take on these matters and where we were headed with it. But in the interest of keeping things quick, I'm letting you have the chance to feedback on that. That would be interested to hear.
I think it'd be useful to hear the whole design narrative and how it is a good solution for High Street and the property in the community.
Sure. Well, obviously, this is a pretty significant investment in the structure by the wood companies, and the intent is to try to make the space more amenable for upper tier restaurateurs, increasing visibility both into the space and noting the double height space within, and improving the quality of the materials at the street level. And also, more notably, to try to create a better quarter presence there at Lincoln and High. And so the double height space, which is by virtue of some space planning to try to get, to try to reallocate how the floors are used in this building. So we get the natural double height space. The curtain wall system is a nice way to bring daylight and views into that space, but we also have to mitigate solar heat gain there. So the terracotta sunshade system was sort of a nice idea as a material connection to the brick, the Carriage House Place and some of the other buildings along the street. The way that it is enumerated on that facade also kind of helps to break up a base, middle, and top for the project. And it is sort of our hope that a potential tenant would do something sort of clever to integrate signage with either the steel C-channel band at the bottom or the terracotta sunshade system itself. It's meant to emphasize the High Street facade more so than the Lincoln Street. We've punched a few openings in the existing block on the Lincoln Street frontage there, trying to keep that clustered toward the west side, toward High Street. But just as a singular move along the front, the terracotta seemed like an effective and also elegant solution. We pulled the top level back to be able to get some outdoor dining space, rooftop dining, that connects with the second floor restaurant zone. So there's a purpose behind the way that we're pulling it back there, but it also provides a massing strategy where between the Carriage House Place building and the two-story buildings to the north across Lincoln Street, it provides a kind of stepping stone between them visually. So the scale of that building equivocates to those on the north side of Lincoln Street.
Excellent.
I was just going to give a little bit of background on our inspiration for doing this. As I think the commission knows, we've had we had a lot of problems with Monarch. This space originally was leased to RJ Snappers, and through maybe some weakness in our lease way back when, we did not have protective measures that we put in our new leases in terms of food to alcohol sales and transfer of ownership. There were some provisions that allowed some ownership transfer to happen, and the lease got passed down. And we made a big investment to get rid of Monarch. We had been going through some litigation threats to try to recover the site. When we went into the building after we did terminate the lease with them, we recognized that this corner is a really significant corner to the neighborhood, that we did not feel like we could recruit the quality of tenant that we would like to have, the business that, we actually have been in conversation with someone that would, I think everyone in this, in the neighborhood would just be thrilled about it. We could make that work. But we started with saying, we want to create the most desirable restaurant space so we can attract the best food first operation possible to the short north, and really just do transformation of this corner. And it's a big investment to do this. We're obviously having to go back and obtain fresh financing for it. But we think it's the right thing to do for the neighborhood. We think it's a really, strong design. And I think it puts us in a position to really go out there and be selective about who we put in here as an operator and concept. So that's kind of where we've been with the project. And so
we appreciate that. Let's get through the comments quickly since I know we're running low on time. So I'll just run through and see who's got things to say. So Shannon, would you like to start?
Sure. I really appreciate this new design. I really think all of it is appropriate and welcome, except for the terracotta shades. There's just something about them that to me doesn't fit into the rest of the neighborhood. However, if the other commissioners, do not feel that way, it is absolutely not a sticking point for me. So that's all I've got.
Great. Todd?
Yeah, wow. This is a hard one to comment on. There's a lot that I really like about this building. I love the avant-garde approach. But I think that there are a few things that I struggle with, or just kind of things I need to work out in my mind as you evolve the project. First, I would say that I really appreciate the way the building turns the corner more than the current one does. On the Lincoln Street facade, I think it's a much more approachable and appropriate facade. I love the way that the third floor steps back and does that. Also helps reinforce the turning of it becoming a corner building. And that's one of the elements that I also like about the glass and terracotta facade, is that it does somewhat reflect and give a nod to the more historical, very kind of high street facades of these other buildings, which I think is kind of a unique, subtle way to tie the new and the old together. Some of the things I do struggle with a little bit is the way that this facade is divided from the ones just to the south. I mean, I think it's done in an appropriate manner. I'm just struggling with the idea that new metal divider piece starts to, while it's appropriate, starts to separate this building from its partners, and making it, because of the new styling, a very destination style iconic building. And I'm still struggling with the appropriateness of that at this point. When it comes to, and I'll jump to that, I'm not a big fan of the chimney, so I'll just throw that in there. The other things, when it comes to the terracotta facade, I think this is an interesting piece. I like it. I think the materiality of it is something that is a subtle connection to the traditional brick facades, which I like, and just kind of done in a more contemporary way. I think a lot of it for me, while this is we're looking at a really nice evening rendering, is the opacity of those shades. I think that'll really have an impact on how opaque this thing feels. That it doesn't feel like a glass facade with just these fins stuck on it. I think that's a big one to study that I'll just kind of want to look at more as you evolve it. And the other piece that I struggle with is the kind of transition from more vertical kind of punched openings, which is a traditional element to our high street facades, to now a very strong horizontal element. And I think that'll also, depending on the opacity of the terracotta fins, make kind of a huge change on this corner. The other thing is the scale is a little challenging, because we've now kind of taken these little punched openings into a big facade. And I think this facade makes the building look much bigger than it actually is, because of the scale of it as well as the length of it. And I'm still just kind of working that over in my mind as well, because it does sit fairly low to the ground. Maybe I can't tell what it is, maybe 7-8 feet off the ground. It almost feels like it's too low, but I'm not sure. And it kind of feels like this is the ground floor and it needs almost a tower on top of this building a little bit. So those are the things I'm struggling with. I like it overall. I'm just trying to really search for ways that this connects to the historical context that's sitting around it, and it's just not an iconic building to be an iconic building. So those are my thoughts, Jason.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Lauren?
It's a lot. I think Todd had a lot of the things that I was thinking. I guess I'm curious to know just kind of how many iterations this building went through, because it feels like I'm struggling with us being a historic commission and so many things being altered to this building. So I need to sit on it for a little bit longer and really be able to articulate why I'm struggling with this a little bit better. So I don't have anything constructive to add.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. First of all, I'll just say that I really don't think this is a terribly contributing building as is. So I think you do have some leeway, some elbow room to do stuff. But I think there needs to be more dialogue with something to the adjacent context. So, I don't have any problems with the terracotta sort of screens, the sunscreens, except for the fact that nothing proportionately lines up with anything on the adjacent sort of streetscape. If it did, it would have a lot more strength in my point of view. I think it's lovely architecture, and it can, and I think it sounds like would be solving the problem for the restaurateur that's coming in, so forth. But just starting at the ground, this sort of knee wall is very atypical. There's a sort of the transom level, which is the only thing that kind of matches up with anything adjacent. And then you get to the top of the terracotta screen, and it doesn't align with anything in terms of datum to the adjacent buildings. Not that it has to, but if it's going to try to dialogue more, it should. If it's going to not dialogue at all, then I would ask that you look for more unity where, Lincoln Street, well, the whole system that you have on High Street just wraps around to Lincoln Street. It's like it becomes a whole new building on the Lincoln Street side that, in my mind, draws questions about what the actual design, direction and ethos is. So I think if I were to make a couple specific comments, if there were another way to create some alignment at the cornice level with the adjacent building to feel like it was facing High Street with a sense of I'm a 3-story building, or that maybe there's some subtraction of some terracotta fins. Maybe there's a way to do some banding along some of the terracotta to become kind of a historic textured terracotta. And I don't know if that means Louis Sullivan-like textures or just something else that seems more natural to the High Street fabric. But I think we just have kind of neither fish nor fowl, and either it needs to be modernist and really more unified as it wraps around Lincoln, or it needs to start picking up some datum lines, some cues from the streetscape.
Okay, thanks. Brooke.
I think I agree with everything that's been said. I really appreciate the terracotta sunscreens. However, I do think that because it's so different than anything else that's in the neighborhood, it really stands out, and I think it's kind of a hard sell. So I think a way to make it more compatible is to consider some of the things that Ben said about aligning with some datums. Maybe, there's a way that you can work with the terracotta thickness at some point. And then I do think I really actually kind of like the Lincoln Street facade. However, once again, there isn't any relationship between what's happening on the High Street side and what's happening on the Lincoln Street side, just like there isn't any connection between any kind of a nod to the historic building to the south. So if there could be a little bit more of a very subtle mesh of alignment somehow, I think it would be easier to accept. That said, I think it's a really interesting design. It just, it's a concept, so it'll be interesting to see how it matures. And that's all.
Thank you. I'll just brief. First want to say I really like this. I'm a fan. I think that it has the opportunity to make some vibrant feeling of this corner that's not been that way for quite some time on the street level, and also add upper story activity in a way that's a little more modulated than some of the other buildings. It's not this massive open deck where it has a different feel. It has a more like you said, a more specific feel toward identifying tenants that are going to be geared maybe toward the food end of the spectrum a little more than the bar end of the spectrum. The couple concerns I have are minor. I think everyone's brought up these things really articulately. I'm in favor of what both Ben and Brooke are saying with regarding finding some kind of datum line to tie into the adjacent building. I don't think you need to do anything that has a historical characteristic. I think we have the great opportunity here that we don't have a real facade on this building, and also the building facade as it is now, not very good. Kind of going out there and looking at it again, it's not great. And clearly, it's also created problems for keeping tenants. I'm sure there are other mitigating circumstances, but when that many things kind of go in and go out over the course of years, you start to wonder if the space maybe is functionally successful, and it doesn't seem to be. The other thing I will say, which is picking up on Todd's, and this is really in the weeds, so I don't want to get in believe this, but some of the elements that create the transition, I feel like you almost went in a case where you're like, this is so different that we're just going to kind of stack a bunch of unusual things on the edge, like a copper panel kind of halfway up that story, and then the stainless steel smokestack all the way up. I would just kind of tone that down, because I think the building itself is unique and exciting enough that the smokestack can just be a smokestack and kind of disappear. Whatever that copper piece is in between, I almost want to have it either, end all the way across or go up higher. I don't know, just some way to transition to that building where it feels less like this is creating a kind of a ta-da moment at the edge of that building, and really pull all that stuff out to the corner and just let that kind of disappear from our eyes. Other than that, I think it's really heading in the right direction, and I very much like the changes to the first floor feel, let alone just that cool cage that wraps around. So with that, real briefly, since we are trying to get one more application in here in the next 10 minutes, does the applicant have any other questions they'd like to ask us before we wrap this one?
I don't.
Those are great comments.
I heard a lot of comments at once.
Joe, do you have anything?
No, those are great comments. Thank you very much. I think we can certainly work with that.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Appreciate
it.
All right, team, let's see if we can do it. 10 minutes, last one. 10 for 10. So on number 10, go ahead, Kimberly.
Right, is 42 to 44 East Prescott Street. The conceptual review to build 3 2.5-story townhomes on a parcel with an existing duplex. The 3 proposed townhomes have various porch configurations on their west elevation. The east elevation will have second and third story porches and 2-car garages. I've included the commentary from the December 8th, 2020 hearing, which is when we last saw this at. Commissioners at the business meeting thought that the current design was an improvement. A few commissioners would like to see more of a gap between the buildings for those small green spaces. Porch posts were noted as being too fat. Commissioners encouraged the applicant to look at the porch details on Battelle Boulevard. Staff recommends that since this is a conceptual review, to offer feedback that our applicant can use at a future hearing, and hopefully the next hearing would be for a possible approval, because we've seen a lot of conceptuals for this one. So Jason, back to you to swear in Carrick.
Sounds good. Carrick, will you state your name for the record?
Carrick Sherrill.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening.
Yes, I do.
Okay, it is your show.
I think I just, we've done this enough times. You can see what you see here. If the comments on an increased gap between the buildings could be expanded, as well as Battelle, I searched for that, so maybe I'm not familiar with it. If someone could tell me which or where.
Is it the new project that's right off of Fifth? Is that what we're talking about?
It's really on Fifth Avenue. I don't know where we got crossed up there. There's some great porches down there.
Okay, so the new project on Fifth. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about then. Okay.
You ready for us to? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready to get your feedback, and I think expand a little bit more on those gaps. I mean, one of the things that we talked about the last time was the shape of the townhomes and how to separate them a little bit more, and so you can see that we tried to do that, as well as add some variety to the facade to identify some differences between the townhomes. So I think that we've done that fairly successfully. And really what I'm looking for is just, hey, this project's going the right direction. Now I'll start to actually work with the client to, really refine the program into the math that we're looking at here. And then, take the next step into the detailing and that. But I feel like we've been all over the place with this project, and so if we're getting close, then we'll take a couple months off and really get this fine tuned.
Okay, sounds good. We'll run through the team. Todd, you want to start?
Sure. I don't have much to add beyond what the comments from. I'm okay with the direction. I think just the porch details, what appear in the renderings just to be really kind of oversized columns. I think if you can nail those details, then I don't have any issue with the direction. That's it.
Sounds good. Brooke?
Sorry, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, Lauren, you still on there? Said she had to drop off. I think she's dropped off.
Actually, I could make one comment.
Sure.
Just one comment. The separation, that little recess between the first two houses, I think there was a comment about making it wider. To me, it doesn't need to be wider. It just needs to be a little deeper. So it feels like a separation between those two homes. But if that's impossible based on the plan, then so be it. That's all.
I mean, it's about 4 feet deep. I mean, it might not be apparent there, but once you get deeper than 4 feet, I worry about it being a place that's just going to collect trash and vagrants and things like that. I mean, especially on this alley that's, you know, in a very urban corridor. I just get concerned about creating nooks that are too deep.
Okay, let's get through all of our comments. We're running low on time.
Sorry.
So let's jump down to Shannon.
I have nothing to add. It looks really good to me. It reminds me of Punta, which I think is a well done alley facing situation. So that's it.
Okay. And Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to expand on that gap between. You're right. It shouldn't be the kind of size that collects trash. It should be big enough that it's actually a little garden over there and capable of sporting a small ornamental tree or some sort of espaliated thing. The point is that it needs to act like an outdoor space instead of just a little trash collector that it seems to be right now. So I would say, for my support, the facades need to be narrower, the gaps bigger and deeper to Brooks' point, to the point where you walk off the side of your porch, and that's where a little bit of gardening is happening. As far as moving on to the sort of the scale of this thing suggests to me that it needs a water table. It needs to come up out of the ground and actually have a porch that you step up maybe at least two steps or something. It's possible it could stay this kind of slab on grade kind of porch ish if it's a narrower facade. But at the moment, you look around, even the smaller Italian Village homes with very low porches are at least higher than the ones shown here. The porches need a lot of work. Yes, look down to the Battelle project. I'm not saying that those are the ones that you need to mimic, but there's a lot of good proportioning going on. The posts, I think, on your project are going to be smaller than the ones you see down at Battelle, but it indicates the proportions being shown at Battelle show a lot of understanding of a small home porch scaled, post and beam kind of approach, and even the guardrails. Finally, I don't think I'm buying into this kind of two-story plantation-like deck on the middle part of the structure.
Okay, I will just echo a few of those very briefly. I also feel like if that was deeper and more significant of a space, it would help that proportion. And I also do agree with Ben. I think these are going to look really strange being flat onto the ground. I think it's so wide. It will look like one of my other least favorite circumstances like this, which is the one catty corner from the library, which looks like something happened in the ground, like sucked up the bottom 3 feet of the building and pulled it down inside. I don't want that to happen again. So I'd like to see a little bit something. Doesn't have to be a lot. Those are my only comments. Carrick, any other thoughts on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks a lot. Before we go, everybody, I do have to do my latest round of appeal to the group. I have been repeatedly solicited by the Italian Village Society for reps, and I am now also being solicited by the Short North Foundation for a board member. I've been filling in on the Short North Foundation for now because we're sort of trapped and we don't go that many places, but that's not sustainable because usually I'm traveling places and not able to do that. So wondering if someone's interested in that, because I have another board meeting that is, I can't have a board meeting every Tuesday is what I'm saying. So that one's the week before. If anybody is able to do that. They've been asking for a while. I think the one that's even more important, though, is Italian Village Society. The problem with Italian Village Society is that they have been meeting on this Tuesday for a long time. And so they were upset when we moved our meeting to this Tuesday, which we have explained to them is not our fault. It's just that that was the day when we could meet, because eventually we're going to go back and have these meetings in person. And that was the day the room was available. So their meeting is at 7. which I know sucks to sit here for, almost 3 hours and then do that meeting right away. They have volunteered that they would let us go at the very beginning and do an update if, slot us in at the beginning of their agenda, if that was possible. So I guess what I'm asking is if anyone or group of people would be willing to sort of split those duties to do that. Like I said, I'm covering the foundation for now. At some point, I'll need somebody to pick up that one. But if anybody's willing to be part of a group that would update the society immediately following our meetings at 7 on what we're doing, that would be great.
Before anyone decides to commit, I did receive an email from the society regarding that they're willing to move their meeting to better coincide with a volunteer from the Italian Village Commission. They just need to figure out a time or day that works best for everybody. And I will forward everybody that email as well.
If that's the case, I would be one who had that responsibility before the time changes, and I would love to resume that responsibility as long as their time changes. Because I can't do the 5, 6, 7 hours. The other thing I will note is, while we're on Zoom right now, it's easy to join at 7 p.m. But what was happening, what was keeping us there for the first year that we were changed, is that our meetings run until 9 o'clock at night, and so their meeting would be over by the time we actually got out of hours. So if the time moves, I am more than willing to resume those duties, as long as I have a backup for when I'm traveling and can't be there.
I just like to add to that there was a while that I was doing kind of little paragraph summaries for them, which I'd send out, but we just never got any response, and we were constantly, and I say we because Shannon was involved in this at some stages, trying to solicit what they wanted to have us be more concerned about and/or advocate for. So it's kind of a two-way street that I think needs to happen. I will say that, Shannon, I'll do my best to help you in that maybe there are ways that I can write some bullet points and that you can go and share on Zoom or vice versa or something like that. But
that'd be great.
No doubt Zoom makes it a lot easier to get these things to happen.
I will say, though, I won't be able to go tonight.
And also, I will say that the society has new leadership that seems way more engaged than they had been over the previous few years. You know how it goes. Sometimes it kind of booms, and it was a boom for a while, and then it waned, and now they seem to be really accelerating again. And Jenny, who is on the call tonight, seems like she's doing a great job getting people pulled together. And then of course Andy and others are involved. So.
Okay.
So does that mean that Shannon and Ben are it? So I would say that if Shannon and Ben have issues occasionally, that I would be happy to do that as well, as long as you guys fill me in on the dynamics.
Sounds good. Sounds great. And then, of course, if anybody's interested long-term in taking the foundation spot, which is the Tuesday before our meeting, well, let me know, because that one's not going to last in perpetuity. And that one's a board member spot. And that one's that group that's like Victorian Village and Harrison West and like a bunch of other folks that kind of just talk about things and give scholarships and strategize. It's useful. Betsy comes to it, so we know what's going on in the Short North.
Is German Village in that? Probably not.
No, it's just right here. It's the Short North neighborhood, yeah. Short North Foundation.
Yeah. Okay. They're probably more fun than German Village.
I'm gonna say, yeah. I mean,
yeah. I'm going to remind you that we're still recorded and we're still live.
Oh,
to start beef with German Village. They're going to come after
right.
us.
Sorry. Can you bleep that? Really?
Hey, every commission has their host of characters. So
I move we adjourn.
individual
Okay.
ways.
All right. Do I have a second?
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Me too.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hands.
Yes.
All right. It's unanimous. We're adjourned. Hey, thanks, staff. Amazing as always.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Have a good night, everybody. And thank you, Alex and Nolan.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.